Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our printTHINK webinar series. So we appreciate everyone attending today. My name is Lene Keene, new Vice President, new President of TLMI, and want to thank you all for joining. We are joined with our guest, Doug Bartlett, who has been leading these webinar series for us and coordinating with our experts. And today we're featuring Epson, who is focused on innovation and automation. So I'd like to introduce Mike Pruitt from Epson and let him take on over. If you do have any questions during the seminar, you're muted throughout, so please enter those in the GoToWebinar chat box. We appreciate it and enjoy.
All right. Thank you, Lene. Welcome to you and to everyone else that's joining us today. It's going to change it up a little bit. We're switching to a new theme today, so kind of excited to move on to the next group. Today we're going to be, the next 4 series actually, we're going to be focusing on automation and innovation. Then we'll start off today with Mike Pruitt and Epson. He's got a really interesting presentation on sort of the beginning of automation. What is automation and how do you use it? How does it fit in the print world? What does it do for you and that kind of thing? So I think we'll find it pretty interesting. A little bit early here, but we'll get kicked off, and I'll follow up with you guys at the end with some questions. So go ahead, Mike, take it away.
Thank you, Doug and Lene, for the introduction. My name is Mike Pruitt. Good morning or good afternoon, whatever part of the world you're in. And thank you very much for taking the time to attend this webinar series on automation. I'm the product manager for the SurePress series of label and packaging presses for Epson. And I am going to talk about printing automation. Printing automation we'll see is a specific part of the automation in your business. I wanted to put this quote up here that automation is good as long as you know exactly where to put the machine. This fellow who said this was an early pioneer in the industrial automation, and he's written several books. You might look at those, but automation in itself is good, but you have to know how to use it, of course. So there's a lot of different areas in packaging automation. I'm going to be talking about the printing side. We all hear a lot about the software side, the web to print or the digital front end or pre-flight or tracking. There's also finishing, and there's also job tracking and invoicing and inspection on the back end, right? Of course, all these have to work together, but today I'm only going to focus on the printing part of automation. Okay. Since we're part of a TLMI organization, I pulled some of these out of one of the annual reports about areas of concern for the TLMI members and how automation can address these. Obviously, we hear a lot about shorter lead times, recruiting qualified personnel, cost of raw materials, price pressure, and vertical integration. So automation plays to all these things, of course, like we mentioned, as long as it's done correctly. Okay. Why is printing automation important? Well, if you buy a piece of equipment, a digital press, for example, or an analog press with automated features, the press is generally ready. So you need to keep the press busy. It's kind of like your car sitting in the driveway. Your car's always ready to go. it's just you don't use it that much. So, but this is a piece of machinery where you want to get a good return on investment. So you want to keep the press busy. Also, minimizing personnel resources. There's been a lot of change in the last year, from hardly any qualified people in the job market to people being out because of illness and different constraints in the job market that have made it extremely difficult for people in business to manage their personnel resources. Automation plays to that. Automation is becoming present in all sorts of forms. That now the cost has come down. That big companies and small can realize returns on investment. We know, like through the computer age, for example, there were really large computers, and now we've gone to cell phones that have huge processing power. Same thing for machines and on the floor. Automation has really brought down the cost of sensors and other things like that that can allow all companies to have some return on investment on their automation. Okay. What are the visible benefits of automation? We talk about this word automation, but how are these? What things do we see in our average day that show we have an automated system? One thing, overriding thing we think of is a simple interface for an operator. It's intuitive. We don't have it to have extensive training. The operator is managing a sophisticated machine that has already an intelligence built inside. Full features are standard. As more electronics and sensors become low cost, like I discussed, just as in a modern car, you get things like low speed following for cruise control now, accident avoidance. That comes on basic cars now. So all this sensor technology is a lot easier integrated into new machines to allow tasks, and whether they're maintenance or supervisory type tasks, to be automated. And daily service is minimal. So the machine operator will still have some automation tasks to perform, but they're really minimal. He might have one period during 3 shifts to do the maintenance on the machine, and the machine handles all the rest of the automation during the day, for cleaning or inspecting the print engine, for example. Less waste, whether it be ink or substrate. The machine's able to manage where exactly it prints, how much it prints, and optimize that so you have less waste. So these are just 4 really obvious things that you'll see as you implement more automation in your business. What is a printing robot? We continuously develop new machines, we kind of develop the moniker that it's a printing robot. Why? Because the machine is really taking over a lot of the tasks that were managed by experience or just hard work. And basically it is a robot. And some of the features that define this as a robot is electronic over mechanical. So a lot of mechanical adjustments that would be done by an Allen key and a meter or a small screwdriver are replaced by electronics. The electronics automatically adjust based on sensor feedback. Sophisticated communications and control. And we all know about Ethernet communication. So in modern types of equipment, that's pretty pervasive. But also, we see specialized robotic controllers that are taking the place of off-the-shelf PCs. These handle specific interfaces with the sensors that are in the machines. They're much higher speed, they're much more reliable than a PC. They run specialized software, firmware inside the machine that is dedicated to this type of operation. They're not types of, like you think your PC might crash. These types of things are optimized, so they're made to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just like you don't expect the collision system in a brand new car to crash, you wouldn't expect these dedicated robotic controllers to crash, right? Sensors and more sensors. We all know sensors are becoming cheaper and cheaper. You buy a dog collar that has some sort of sensor when your dog barks or something like this, and it's $20 now or something. So sensors have become so inexpensive that we're just able to put them all over inside the machines to make automatic adjustments to continuously measure the output of what we're doing. But to really make a good printing robot, we have to have intelligent design. People who make automated machines spend a lot of time getting a group of engineers together to integrate all these components, whether sensors or robotic controllers or these electronic systems, and really thinking about how these systems can be integrated to work properly, to work consistently, and to do the job that really we're really trying to automate. So that intelligent design is really the hardest part, and it's the part that yields the biggest benefits. Okay. Press automation. What sort of operator processes are we looking at to automate? There's obviously the setup of the machine when you come in the morning. There's a substrate. There's the printing, the drying of the ink or the toner. There's the rewinding. There's the ink or toner supply. There's the maintenance, and then there's a communication between the machines. So there's a lot of different subsystems that we look at to make an automated machine. Okay. So operator tasks and state of automation. I thought I'd just look at some of these processes and break them down into sub-processes and just, talk about where we are currently with these processes. For example, in the setup, there's usually a corona treater, and we know corona is a little bit of an art, and whether too much or too little can depend on the substrate, and depend on a lot of things, the humidity or so we're on the road to fully automatic, but there's still a lot of at least electronic adjustment in the corona treater. IMARC or re-registration, that can be done fairly automatically now. Static control, there is some adjustment by the operator, some electronic adjustment. Again, it's just electronic adjustment, but it's not done typically 100% automatically. Unwind, steering, and guiding. We have web guides, but now we have web steering, for example, that moves the whole row and the corona treater back and forth to align the substrate in registration exactly in the press. There's a lot of sensors that can control that to make sure that that goes through straight. So we're moving towards that fully automatic part right now. Of course, there's turret systems and self-splicing and things like that. Substrate, so loading and webbing, like I said, there's turret systems. And identification is a new thing. We can put sensors in line that identify the white point, for example, of the material or the material. So you don't have to even go to the electronic control and say it's this type of material and to dial in all the presets to define how it's going to print on that material. Splice management, that's pretty pervasive now that you can see where the splice is and manage if you want to stop, you want to print over it, or what do you want to do. Substrate detection, that's on the way to being fully automatic. The press will detect the smallest defects so it doesn't damage the print head system, and you can dial in what you want to do. Stop, you want to slow down, what do you want to do when you see that? As far as printing, registration between print heads or different parts of the printing process, if its toner can be dialed in, fine-tuned by the operator electronically again by moving one color with respect to another. And I'm talking really just fine measurements here. Print quality, we have some really high, you all know we have some very high quality inspection systems now that can do, recognize a defect and then alert the operator and wait the input for that. Web integrity, there's more and more sensors through the press, which pretty much eliminate web breaks. There's various strain gauges that can be put in the press that will regulate that, the stress inside the web path. And web breaks might have been something years ago that you really have to use some skill to manage, versus now the machine is managing that. Lamp management. There are machines now that use LED, of course, to dry, and they some are so cool they don't even need a chiller. So you're reducing setup of a chiller, for example. The output of the lamps are carefully managed by the electronics. On the rewind side, there's also the tension that interfaces with the unwind side, the strain gauges, and of course you want the right amount of tension and squareness so you don't have any telescoping, or you have a nice square roll going into the finisher. Okay, let's see. Okay, ink supply, refilling of the ink is still, pretty much in the semi-automatic. We can monitor ink supply, we can monitor how much, we can monitor when we're going to run out. But refilling the ink is still pretty much a manual task. White ink handling, we all know that white ink requires special care. In the machines now, there's mixers inside the machines themselves that monitor the white, that mix it during the printing while it's sitting there in the tank, monitor its temperature, lifetime of ink. Some inks are very sensitive to lifetime, especially UV inks, for example. Monitoring when that ink was made, registering electronically when it comes in the press, how much more months, for example, that ink has in its lifetime. Inventory management is really important, as there's higher and higher speed presses, keeping the enough ink but not too much on hand, but having the press feedback the current usage and predicting what the future usage would be. Maintenance, this is becoming really big, and this is where we go heavy into the robotic part. Keeping the press cool. There's there's moving parts in the press. We're using a lot of energy either through the print engine or just moving the media. So keeping the press cool is important. But as the sensors become smaller, more efficient, less heat is generated, which means possibly an air-cooled system or a very low-cost cooling system for the press and less energy, of course. Cleaning of the print engine, we're moving farther and farther away of the operator having to clean during the shift. The press cleans it can clean itself during the shift. The press can actually monitor the print engine during the cleaning and decide should it clean more or less. Cleaning of the web is not so automated. We have glue squeeze out onto rollers and things like that, and that involves still some alcohol and a little bit of elbow grease to remove glue on rollers and things like that. But we know there's web cleaners and other systems that try to minimize that. Remote diagnosis, that's definitely on the fully automated part where we can tap into the machines now from anywhere in the world. Our best engineers can look at the machine in real time and diagnose any issues or even suggest improvements through the remote diagnosis. Repair frequency, as these sensors become more pervasive, more common, they become more reliable. The cost comes down, the ease of repair is much easier, which leads into changing of components. Presently, the operation of the machine, it requires a base level of skill. To maintain the machine at a tech level of the electronics is a fairly high level of skill with the sensors and everything. There is a strong trend in the industry to allow more plug-in type of replacement of print heads, for example. When there's a problem, the operator will be able to just plug it in, and when it plugs in, the registration will be accurate enough that just some small electronic tasks to get it back in registration are done, rather than a long, complex calibration. Communication and bus architecture. As I said before, robotic controllers are taking over from CPUs to allow faster communication and more error-free communication. Remote monitoring and printing is a reality now. You can monitor through your iPhone. You can command monitor the press, all the way across the world if you want. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm gonna turn it over to Doug if anybody has any questions. It's a little, I hope people do. It's a little bit hard to present sort of to a faceless audience, but I hope I can answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Well, thanks, Mike. I think you did a great job. And again, this is a nice overview of what automation looks like in the print world and where we're going and where we are. So I do have a couple questions here we can ask. So let's go with the first one here. What are some future trends in printing automation?
So as I mentioned in the presentation, one of the big trends is to look at the maintenance of the machine as far as the hard maintenance. Right now, most machines in the industry are under a service contract, and people, as the machines get more modern and automated, people are saying, well, what do I get for that service contract? Because it's automated, right? We're looking at, and we're in some parts of Epson, we're already have made systems that allow the operator to change the print head, for example, and when they change it, they can actually do a small calibration that puts it back in registration. That is it's a really big part of it when the operator is working on the print engine, because we all know that things like the registration or just the safety of the machine it can be altered if it's not done right. So, but that's a trend. We're all working on this. We want to keep your ROI as low as possible. That means trying to make the machine as simple as possible and reduce those monthly service charges.
Okay. Characteristics for a new hire. What would you be looking for in hiring someone when it comes to automation and fitting into all that?
So we've been doing this for a while now. We have machines that can print overnight unattended. We've noticed a trend that if employees need to, there's not a lot to do as far as maintenance, for example, but the employee must do the maintenance, right? It's not their opinion whether they should do the maintenance. It's the must, because we've eliminated the maintenance to a very small limited set of tasks, but you have to do those. So that's one thing. And unfortunately, printing is becoming less of an art with these automated systems. We have a system, for example, that the software and the RIP works in 4 colors, and the machine figures out the other 2 colors, the orange and green, for example. And there's no reason to work in 6-color workflow. It's kind of like a chess champion machine. You can beat it maybe 1 in 100 times, but you're going to just get kicked the other 99 times. So you need an operator that, if they're bringing legacy experience in and think they're going to beat the machine, they're not really working with why you bought the machine, right? So what an employee who is looking to the future and thinking, where did this machine fit in? Like I said at the beginning, how does it fit in? How can I optimize other processes around the machine, is really the right type of employee.
Okay, so you kind of have to have the right mindset and some mechanical ability.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Pitfalls to watch for in looking at new automated systems.
Okay. So I really feel for that's why I tried to break this down into just the printing section, because automation has many parts. And I don't know if you go through a consultant or somebody, I know, for example, we have a robotic division, and I have some customers that have expressed interest. They have a printing engine from us, and then they say they want to use some robotics for another part of their company. And I said, well, that's good. The robot costs $20,000, but to integrate that robot, it goes through an integrator and a lot of other steps, and the price might come out to be $200,000 after you've done all the OSHA safety guards and software and things like that. So you really need to keep keeping an eye on what you need to do and how it's going to be done, because if you require any custom programming and software or things like that, the price can go up really fast. So if you're already invested in some pieces of the automation, and then you find out you need another piece, and that person providing that piece has a lot of leverage, and they think that they can charge a large amount for that, you might be caught out on that. So you have to really whoever you're working with, or what, if you're just buying bits, you really have to map it out and think, do I have all the pieces? Is this everything I need, right? So you don't let any costs run away, or maybe it's taking in a direction that won't benefit your business. Definitely, it's helping a lot that these systems are cheaper, smarter, easier to run, able to stand more independently, and they don't have to be wrapped up in, for example, some giant amount of expensive software.
Okay, that looks like all the questions we have. Thanks, Mike. I really appreciate you putting this together. I think it's been helpful. Just so everyone knows, we're going to continue the new theme, the automation innovation, and in 2 weeks, we're going to be doing a session with Zycon Flint, and they'll be talking about automated, I guess, automation as it relates to the front end of a digital process. So hopefully everyone can join us again for that. Again, thank you, Mike, and thanks to the TLMI for letting us do this. Take care.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your time.